Chapter 61. Seeing the pure death Count the Joker, Wotan, and the other members had brought after only hours of those plants rampaging, I came to an epiphany, I suppose. As I stared at the large dome that houses the facilities that hosted the Injustice League, realized my patience with the DC Universe revolving door of villains had snapped. I was done. My discomfort and bile I felt watching the humans under my protection die horrible deaths far outweighed my supposed desire to make these super criminals and psychopaths rot in a jail cell. What changed my mind from merely putting these people in wheelchairs and such? Simple. Even as Batman flew me and several other League members over the bayou until we located the massive dome facility, his ship was playing news programs about all the death across the world being tallied, and of course, many countries frankly called for the villains responsible to be put directly to death for the more than 100,000 deaths that had been tallied just so far. Most of the deaths being the consequences of skyscrapers being brought down violently in the middle of large cities. But the American news networks were already going on about how the Joker and Poison Ivy were mentally disturbed and whatever, so they needed to be brought back to Arkham Asylum so they could get the mental help they needed to one day become productive members of society. No. I was done with the Joker. And even more so, I was done with Wotan. I can stomach a lot of crap as a hollow, but with the knowledge that the world was set to be split into two parallel worlds for literally an entire 2 days, one with all adults and the other with everyone below age, I wasn't going to allow that psycho to help kill literally every baby and infant in the world. Sure, kids above the age of 5 can go a day or two without food or water for a day or something, but those younger. The thought of every little infant in the world literally starving to death made my blood boil, and I realized I couldn't care less if canon and the DC timeline was ruined, it can suck a fat one. In the worst case, I go hide out in the Fey realms or just be the more handsome and better dressed John Constantine and kill monsters for the hell of it until I become powerful enough to break through the source wall and go to like the Marvel Universe or something. So, before I got off the spaceship, I ignored the people's questions about what I was doing and wrote down a rather extensive letter addressed to Batman, Wonder Woman, and the League itself. "Lord Manhunter, can you sense them in the facility?" Batman asked as our squad assembled. This strike force consisted of Batman, Martian Manhunter, my mentor Wonder Woman, and Green Arrow. The reason heavier hitters like Flash and Superman weren't here was because they were busy rescuing people out of the collapsed buildings that the plant monsters knocked down. "Yes, I can sense 7 souls. They are all here," I said, locking onto the 2 prominently corrupted souls. Wotan was a monster through and through. Although the Wotan of today was male, the history of the insane and powerful sorcerer goes back more than 1,000 years, with the original female Wotan snatching people's bodies and devouring their souls. Joker's soul, however, was original to say the least. It was a jagged mess of mirrors of differing personalities that attempted to arise to become the main soul or something. I don't know, it honestly made me feel sick looking at his soul even from this distance. It was simply that broken. "I will go through the roof, Green Arrow, take the back to prevent anyone from fleeing, while the rest of you break directly in and take them out," Batman said before he used a grappling hook to reel himself into the building. "Jake, you alright? You look more tense than usual," Wonder Woman asked me, and I weakly smiled as I shook my head. "No. But I will be alright after this is dealt with," I said, feeling a weight fall off my shoulders as I stopped worrying about the consequences of falling out with the League and just decided to trust in myself and the good I will do by throwing Canon suffering out the window. Breaking into the League of Injustice was a textbook operation of simplicity. Wonder Woman and I flew in and busted through all the reinforced walls, and while Wonder Woman bashed Poison Ivy across the room and cut down any plants she summoned through the ground or made the little plants lining the corner of the room grow at super speed, I kicked the super-large gorilla ultrahumanite through several walls and shattered the concrete floor with his form as I grabbed his leg and just smashed him repeatedly into the ground as his super strength and weird hand cannon of a gun didn't affect me at all. But as we all gathered the beaten into obedience villains in a line like they were some disobedient children, I looked at the grinning Joker who seemingly didn't give a shit that his whole ransom the world plan was a bust. "Thank you for saving me, great heroes, from these villains. I will make sure when I apply for my release with the UN that I will send the League a charitable donation from the comfort of my homeland, haha." Count Vertigo sneered, rubbing in his diplomatic immunity. But as Batman and the others focused on Count Vertigo, who was the leader of this whole operation, I just calmly walked behind Joker and Wotan, who were tied up, with Wotan having some kind of magical rope or something binding his magic. "Batman, Wonder Woman," I said, getting their attention from Count Vertigo. My explanation is in the letter I wrote on the way here. I am sorry for any disappointment you all feel. I said wistfully as my hands rested atop both Joker and Wotan's heads and the two men froze and began shivering as they realized their time had come. I was engulfed in a purple explosion as I used a full-power Zero to utterly obliterate the very souls of Joker and Wotan along with destroying any DNA that could possibly be used to create clones of the two insane villains. Such a powerful Zero, even if it was my own and thus being mostly immune to the actual damage of it, still scorched my hero costume, but I just stood there in a picturesque scene with the only sign of Wotan and Joker's existence having been burnt onto the ground with the two sets of shadows that were similar to a nuclear shadow cast by people caught up in the blast of such a weapon. "Jake, what have you done?" Batman roared as he unsteadily stood back up along with the others who began to surround me, and I saw Green Arrow was already sending a message to the League probably for backup to capture me. "Batman. You know I can and have seen the past, future, and present at will. Certain events in the future are all but set in stone and can easily be seen due to the impact it would have on the world," I said, making Batman freeze as he realized I must have seen some utter catastrophe to do with Wotan and the Joker. Wotan teams up with the evil sorcerers of the world, and by splitting the world into two parallel worlds with one having adults and one having only children, all children unable to take care of themselves for the almost 3 days it took to take down the magic ritual, all died. "Batman, does your morals allow you to allow at least 100 million infants die for these broken people to live another day?" I said, and then I looked to Wonder Woman, who didn't move. She didn't attack me, or anything. She merely met my gaze. "Jake, I can tell you are going to run. Go ahead, and when you calm down, come back to my embassy and I can introduce you to people with prophetic abilities so it can be trained," Wonder Woman said without condemnation or blame. But then again, she was an ancient warrior trained to kill her opponents and fought in World War I, where she killed a lot of people. Frankly, looking at Martian Manhunter, I saw he also wasn't moving or going to stop me. So even as I opened a Garganta and took several batarangs to my back, I just stepped into my Garganta as I took the batarangs as a sort of send-off as the weapons just bounced off my back. I looked back as my Garganta closed behind me, and the last thing I saw of the Justice League was Batman standing in front of the Garganta, obviously being royally pissed at me, while the rest just let me walk basically. "Jake. This isn't right. You arg." Batman roared, kicking one of the lab seats that filled the room across it as my Garganta closed, and I officially left the Justice League behind.